This is China's largest provincial level region, covering 1.66 million square kilometers. It is a land of deserts and snow-capped peaks, of glaciers and grasslands, of barren Gobi deserts and lush oases, of extreme aridity and rushing rivers. It is home to the ancient Silk Road and to modern transport corridors that today connect China with the Eurasian continent. How can all these seemingly contradictory landscapes exist here at once? Because this is no ordinary land. This is Xinjiang. If you look at a map of Xinjiang for the first time, your first impression will likely be, it is enormous. Just how big is Xinjiang? At 1.6649 million square kilometers, it covers about 1/6 of China's total land area. It is not only China's largest region by area, but also has one of the country's longest land borders, sharing frontiers with several nations. But if this video only tells you that Xinjiang is big, that is not nearly enough, because what truly inspires all about Xinjiang is not a statistic, but the sheer number of completely different worlds contained within that vast space. Here, you can witness the spectacular mountains at the heart of the Asian continent, and gaze upon endless deserts. You can see herds of cattle and sheep grazing on lush grasslands, and then drive for hours across the Gobi without encountering any major city or dense population. You can stand in the shade of a grape arbor or at the foot of a glacier. You can even start your day in a hot, arid basin and drive all the way up to snow-capped mountains. So the first question isn't why Xinjiang has. It is why Xinjiang can contain so many vastly different worlds at once. The answer begins with a map. To describe Xinjiang's terrain in one simple phrase, Chinese geography has a classic summary. 3 mountains flanking 2 basins. To the north are the Altai Mountains. Running through the center is the Tian Shan Range. To the south lie the Kunlun Mountains and other massive surrounding ranges. Sandwiched between these 3 great mountain systems are the Zhangge and Tarim basins. These 5 geographic units form the essential skeleton of Xinjiang, and every remarkable story about Xinjiang is linked to this foundational framework. Why are northern and southern Xinjiang so different? Why does the north have forests and grasslands? Why is southern Xinjiang dominated by vast deserts? Why are oasis cities always found at the foot of mountains and along rivers? Why did the ancient Silk Road skirt around the desert? And why are so many of Xinjiang's important cities still concentrated in specific areas today? The answer lies in 5 words. 3 mountains flanking 2 basins. Let's start with the Tian Shan Mountains. If Xinjiang is a vast map, then the Tian Shan Range is its most important geographical dividing line, stretching across central Xinjiang. Everything north is considered northern Xinjiang, and everything south, southern Xinjiang. But this north-south division is more than just a line on a map. It represents completely different climates, vegetation, water systems, and human lifestyles. Why? Because Xinjiang lies deep in the Eurasian interior, far from any ocean. Unlike eastern China, moist maritime air rarely reaches this far inland. Thus, Xinjiang has a classic temperate continental climate, generally low precipitation and high evaporation. Both annual and daily temperature swings are significant. Yet, Xinjiang isn't just one big desert. In fact, there is a crucial principle at play here. While Xinjiang is arid, it isn't devoid of water, because Xinjiang is home to towering mountain ranges. These mountains act as immense natural barriers, influencing air currents and moisture distribution. At high altitudes, precipitation accumulates as snow and ice. During warmer seasons, this melts and flows down the valleys. Thus, a crucial cycle takes shape one that determines Xinjiang's fate. Mountains generate water, rivers transport it, oases receive it, and human life thrives around these oases. This is the key thread to understanding Xinjiang. So next time you see a photo of Xinjiang's snow-capped peaks, don't just admire their beauty. For Xinjiang, these mountains are more than scenery. They are vital water sources. Every river you see can often be traced back to these distant mountains. Emerging from the mountains, rivers enter the basins and form alluvial fans at the desert's edge. Where water meets soil, life concentrates, vegetation sprouts, farmland spreads, villages form, and cities rise. Ultimately, lush green oases emerge. So the core geographical logic of Xinjiang is this: mountains store water, rivers deliver it, and oases sustain life. With this in mind, looking at Xinjiang's 2 great basins becomes even more fascinating. North of the Tian Shan Mountains lies the Zhangge Basin. To the south, the Tarim Basin. Though both are basins, their natural environments are markedly different. Parts of northern Xinjiang receive more moisture from the north and west, giving rise to diverse landscapes of forests, grasslands, rivers, and lakes. That is why so many people visiting Altai or Ili for the first time get an illusion. Is this really Xinjiang? Because in many people's minds, Xinjiang means desert. But the real Xinjiang is far more than that. But south of the Tian Shan Mountains, things change dramatically. This is the Tarim Basin, enclosed by towering mountain ranges, far from the ocean. Moisture struggles to get in, making rainfall extremely scarce. Under these conditions, the basin has become one of China's largest endorheic basins. It also gave rise to the famous Taklamakan Desert. Speaking of the Taklamakan, many think of the Sea of Death. The name sounds quite mysterious. But geographically speaking, it is not mysterious at all. This is a classic inland arid zone, surrounded by high mountains, far from the ocean, with scarce rainfall and intense evaporation, coupled with the vast amount of sediment that accumulated in the basin over millennia. The result is the vast desert we see today. So, the Taklamakan didn't appear overnight. It is the product of Xinjiang's geology, climate, and mountainous terrain. But the real wonder is that around this immense desert lies a ring of oases: Kashgar, Hotan, Aksu, Kola, and many other towns and cities along rivers, mountain fronts, and alluvial fans. You'll notice one thing they all have in common. They are all anchored to water. Because in Xinjiang, you can't just build a city anywhere you like. The land itself dictates where the water is, and where large-scale human settlement is possible. So, many cities here look like green islands scattered across the desert. But on a map, they trace a very clear lifeline, following the mountain fronts, tracing the rivers, extending from one oasis to the next, is what's most breathtaking about Xinjiang. In many places, water is a given, but in Xinjiang, water itself is geography. It determines agriculture and cities, population, and even history. Why? Because thousands of years ago, people had no highways, no railways, no airplanes, and no modern water systems. To cross Xinjiang, they first had to answer one question: where is the next water source? This single question dictated the entire course of the Silk Road. Ancient caravans couldn't just wander across hundreds of kilometers of desert. They had to seek out oases and rivers, places to restock food and water. Thus, oasis cities emerged. Trade routes then strung these cities together, eventually forming the famous Silk Road. So, the Silk Road wasn't just a straight line on a map. It was more like a vast network, and what truly shaped this network, besides politics and trade, was something far more basic: water. That is why Xinjiang's history is so unique. Despite being deep in the Asian interior, it was never truly isolated. On the contrary, situated between China, Central Asia, South Asia, and the wider Eurasian landmass, it long served as a vital crossroads for East-West exchange. Silk from the east traveled west along these routes, while goods, technologies, ideas, and culture from the West and Central Asia flowed east along the same path. So, the history of Xinjiang was never just its own story. It is a story that connects China, Central Asia, and lands beyond. This is evident in the World Heritage Site, the Silk Roads, the routes network of Chang'an, Tianshan Corridor. This historic transportation network spans across China, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, and was developed and used over an exceptionally long historical period. It wasn't just for trade, it also facilitated the exchange of religion, knowledge, technology, and culture. And Xinjiang was a crucial part of this network. So, if someone asks why Xinjiang is important, the answer is definitely not just its vast size. More importantly, it occupies a unique strategic position, China's vital gateway westward to the Eurasian continent. But this raises another question. If Xinjiang is so arid, how did ancient people manage to live here long-term? And how did they transform the desert fringes into farmland? This brings us to one of Xinjiang's most astonishing feats of human ingenuity, the carries system. Especially in extremely arid regions like Turpan, water evaporation poses a major challenge. If water is left exposed on the surface for long, this precious resource would simply evaporate. So, ancient inhabitants built an underground system of tunnels and vertical shafts to channel water to the oases. By flowing underground, water loss from evaporation is minimized, allowing it to finally reach villages and farmland. Thus, in a place seemingly unsuitable for agriculture, vineyards emerged, orchards flourished, villages sprung up, and so did cities. So, when you see Turpan's grapes today, don't just think of them as delicious Xinjiang fruit. You should remember, this is the outcome of humanity's long struggle against an extreme environment. And that is perhaps the most compelling story Xinjiang has to tell. Xinjiang has never enjoyed excellent natural conditions. Quite the opposite, as conditions are extremely harsh in many areas. Yet, humans didn't give up and leave. Instead, they have continually searched for ways to adapt to this land. They sought out water, built irrigation systems, chose crops suited to the local climate, and founded cities along oases. Transport routes were developed through mountain passes and river valleys. In the end, cities endured one after another on the fringes of the desert. This is the core logic of civilization in Xinjiang, not to conquer nature, but to learn how to harness the opportunities nature provides. That is why you'll find Xinjiang's most important cities each have their own distinct geographical logic. Urumqi lies in a crucial zone on the northern foothills of the Tianshan Mountains. Today, it stands as a major central city and a vital hub for transport and commerce in Xinjiang. Kashgar is located in southwestern Xinjiang. Historically, it has always been a keynote for trade and cultural exchange. Turpan exists within a unique basin environment, which led to the development of a distinct oasis, agriculture, and rich history. Ili benefits from relatively favorable moisture conditions and a river valley grassland setting, resulting in landscapes that are entirely different from those of the Tarim Basin. Cities like Kola, Aksu, and Hotan are also intimately connected to the surrounding rivers, oases, Piedmont zones, and transport routes. So, Xinjiang cities didn't spring up at random. They're all geographical solutions. This also means that to truly understand Xinjiang, you can't just memorize city names. You should ask, why was it built here? Once you start asking that question, the geography comes alive. You'll discover that every oasis, every river, every mountain pass, and even every ancient trade route in Xinjiang are all part of the same story. How did humanity carve out a living in the heart of the Asian continent? But that story isn't over. Because as we move into the modern era, Xinjiang no longer faces the challenges of ancient caravans. The ancients were most concerned with finding water and crossing deserts, simply surviving. But the problems facing modern Xinjiang have shifted to, how can we connect such a vast territory? How can we get resources flowing? How can we develop the cities? How can we make agriculture more efficient? How can we connect Xinjiang with the rest of China and the wider Eurasian continent? Thus, Xinjiang embarked on a completely new era. Railways came. Roads were built. Airports opened. Modern energy pipelines were laid. Communication networks arrived. Large-scale agricultural machinery rolled in, and modern industry was established. This has also triggered a profound transformation in Xinjiang. Humanity began using modern technology to redefine distance. In the past, traveling from one city to another in Xinjiang could mean a long and arduous journey. Today, expressways, railways, and air networks are steadily shrinking that distance. The once endless Gobi meant isolation, but today, it can also host transportation and energy infrastructure. In the past, deserts were considered unusable. Today, we see the wind, the sunlight, and the vast expanses of land they contain. So, in the modern era, Xinjiang is actually undergoing a new geographical revolution, one that will fundamentally change how we understand this region. But before we go further, we must remember one crucial fact. Modernizing Xinjiang is not about turning it into another Eastern China. Xinjiang follows its own natural laws. Its land is immense, but its water is not endless. It is rich in energy resources, yet its environment still requires careful protection. Its agriculture is extensive, yet it must operate within the water constraints of an arid region. Therefore, Xinjiang's true future is not simply about extracting more, but about how to manage its resources, ecology, population, and industry within a sustainable long-term system across this vast land. This is the real challenge for Xinjiang, and the key question we'll explore next. Underground lie resources like oil, natural gas, and coal. Above ground, there is cotton, grain, fruit, and livestock. The skies offer abundant solar and wind power, while the land hosts vital transportation links between Eastern China and Central Asia. In other words, Xinjiang is transforming its most traditional advantages, its land resources, and strategic location into modern economic strengths. This is the Xinjiang we will turn to next. If ancient Xinjiang was about survival in the desert, then modern Xinjiang faces a different challenge: how to connect this vast land and unlock its potential. These two statements capture Xinjiang's past and present. In ancient times, people followed the oases. Today, they follow railways, highways, and air routes. Ancient caravans carried silk, spices, and various goods through this region. Today, trains and trucks transport energy, agricultural and industrial products, and countless other goods. The times have changed. The tools have changed, but Xinjiang's core geographical advantages remain: its immense size, abundant resources, and strategic location. First, resources. Many people immediately think of oil and natural gas when Xinjiang is mentioned. Indeed, Xinjiang is a major oil and gas production base for China with the Tarim and Yangtze basins. These vast sedimentary basins have created abundant oil and gas resources over a long geological history. So the deserts and Gobi you see in Xinjiang might appear barren and empty on the surface, but beneath them may lie enormous energy reserves. But you can't sum up Xinjiang today by just oil and natural gas, because another energy revolution is underway here: new energy. So why is Xinjiang ideal for wind and solar power? The reason is simple. There is a massive amount of land, plenty of sunlight in many areas, strong winds in others, and wide open desert and Gobi regions, where large-scale new energy projects can be built. Places that once seemed empty suddenly hold new value. That is the fascinating thing about geography. The land doesn't speak, but how we see it changes with the times. Ancient people saw the Gobi and thought of water scarcity and impassable terrain. Today, we see the Gobi and also think of sunlight, wind energy, and space. So, Xinjiang is transitioning from a traditional energy base towards a comprehensive energy hub. But for that energy to truly be valuable, one problem must be solved: how to get it out. Which brings us back to transportation, because Xinjiang's greatest advantage and challenge is its sheer size. Resources and people can be far apart, production sites and consumer markets even farther. A vast expanse separates Xinjiang from China's developed eastern regions. So, Xinjiang's modernization is in essence a revolution against distance. Railways keep pushing forward. Highways keep stretching out. The airport network continues to expand. Oil and gas pipelines link different regions, while power grids connect the energy resources of the West with broader markets. When this infrastructure all comes together, Xinjiang ceases to be a remote place. It becomes an important node in China's economic network, which is fitting given Xinjiang's history. For thousands of years, it was a vital corridor connecting East and West. Today, only the means of connection have changed. From camels to cars, trains, airplanes, and modern logistics, oasis way stations have transformed into urban logistics parks and integrated transport hubs. But the central theme of connection has never disappeared. This is one of Xinjiang's most distinctive features. Its historical and modern value both stem, to a large degree, from the same source, its location. Of course, beyond energy, Xinjiang also boasts another vital modern industry, agriculture. The scale of Xinjiang's cotton production has made it China's most important cotton-producing region. But the real story isn't just about output numbers. It is about understanding why Xinjiang can develop such large-scale modern agriculture in an extremely arid environment. Again, it comes down to light, water, and land resources. Many parts of Xinjiang have low rainfall but abundant sunlight, which creates unique growing conditions for certain crops. Coupled with mechanized irrigation, modern breeding, and large-scale operations, Xinjiang's agriculture has developed its own distinct character. This is true for cotton, for grain, and for specialty crops like grapes, honey melons, fragrant pears, red dates, and walnuts, all closely tied to the region's varied natural conditions. So, the true marvel of Xinjiang's agriculture is not simply that things can be grown in the desert. Rather, humans have adapted to the natural conditions here and adopted farming methods suited to this environment. This is a classic approach to agriculture in arid regions. However, it must be emphasized again, Xinjiang's greatest constraint is still water. The land may be vast, but water is finite. Therefore, the future of Xinjiang's agriculture lies not in simply expanding farmland, but in improving water use efficiency, boosting output per unit of land, and developing more water-saving agricultural technology. We must also strike a balance between agriculture, cities, and ecology. This principle actually sets a crucial baseline for Xinjiang's development in the coming decades. A truly advanced Xinjiang wouldn't focus on turning more desert into farmland, but on making its limited water supply generate greater value, and that is the real challenge modern technology needs to address. Now, let's look at the cities. Xinjiang's urban distribution is fascinating. The population isn't evenly spread across its 1.66 million square kilometers. Instead, people and cities are highly concentrated in oases and areas with good transportation links. This makes sense. In arid regions, cities need water first and foremost. Water enables agriculture. Agriculture supports a stable population. A stable population creates a market, and a market spurs industry. Transportation then ties everything together. So the growth of many Xinjiang cities can be traced back to this chain. Ürümqi is Xinjiang's key central city. Kashgar holds unique geographical and historical cultural value. Yaining connects the vital Ili River Valley. Korla is located in the Tarim Basin. In its northeast, an important transportation and industrial hub. Akxu, Hotan, Turpan, Hami, Karamay, Altay. Every city has its own geographical logic. This is also one of Xinjiang's most fascinating aspects. You'll find that these cities don't exist in isolation. Behind them are mountains, rivers, roads, and history, local industries, and each has its own oasis story. And beyond these cities, Xinjiang also possesses another huge, often overlooked advantage, tourism. But what makes Xinjiang tourism truly special isn't any single attraction. It is its comprehensiveness. Elsewhere in China, you'd have to travel across multiple provinces to witness the range of landscapes you can experience in a single journey through Xinjiang. Snow-capped mountains, grasslands, forests, lakes, canyons, the Gobi Desert, deserts, oases, ancient towns and villages. All these landscapes are packed into this one vast territory of Xinjiang. This is also why Xinjiang has become one of China's most sought-after long-haul travel destinations. In recent years, tourism in Xinjiang has continued to boom. In 2025 alone, Xinjiang received 323 million tourist visits, making tourism a vital pillar of the region's modern economy. But to think of Xinjiang tourism merely as sightseeing is to underestimate it. What truly draws people to Xinjiang is the spatial experience. It is not just about hopping from one scenic spot to another. You are constantly traversing distinct geographical worlds. You start from a city, enter grasslands, cross a mountain pass, and descend into a basin. You traverse the Gobi and catch sight of snow-capped peaks. Then you step into an oasis, only for a desert to appear before you once more. This is the true magic of traveling through Xinjiang. You're not just looking at a landscape, you're traveling across a living geographical map. And this is precisely why Xinjiang is a perfect destination for road trips. Because the roads here are themselves magnificent scenic corridors. G30, G7, G218, G219, and G315 traverse diverse landscapes. They connect mountains, basins, deserts, oases, and cities. Some roads, especially those crossing towering mountains and vast deserts, resemble lines carved into the earth by human hands. Standing by the roadside, you suddenly realize a line on the map can represent hundreds, even thousands of kilometers in reality. This is one of Xinjiang's most awe-inspiring aspects. Scale in Xinjiang is not an abstract concept. It is the distance between two cities, separated by a colossal Gobi Desert. It is driving for hours, yet the mountains ahead never seem closer. It is a horizon that perpetually lies ahead, and precisely because of this, Xinjiang makes you truly grasp the meaning of China's western expanse. Place Xinjiang on a world map, and its significance transforms once more. It is not just China's largest provincial-level region. It is a vital hub connecting China to Central Asia and the wider Eurasian continent. It shares land borders with multiple countries. It is home to crucial overland routes, border crossings, and cross-border highways, railways and logistics corridors. So, frontier in Xinjiang doesn't simply mean remote or peripheral. In today's global trade and transportation networks, frontiers can be gateways to the world. This is another dimension of Xinjiang's strategic value. Once a frontier meant the edge, today it can mean a gateway. And Xinjiang possesses precisely this gateway geography. Of course, the real Xinjiang is far more tangible than any grand description. It is the everyday lives of ordinary people, the farmlands within an oasis, the pastures for herders. It is the city streets, the bustling morning markets, life under the shade of grapevines, the ever-stretching scenery along the highways, and the rich culture forged through generations of coexistence among different ethnic groups. If we view Xinjiang only through map data and grand projects, it is easy to forget that it is first and foremost a living, breathing land. Like people everywhere, those here work daily, go to school, run businesses, care for their families, and strive for a better life. Only, the backdrop of their lives might be snow-capped mountains, vast grasslands, endless deserts, or vibrant oases. So, to truly understand Xinjiang, we must look beyond mere geographical wonders. Because geography ultimately shapes people's lives. Mountains determine water. Water creates oases. Oases give rise to cities. And cities foster industries, which in turn transform lives. Transportation links all these places together. This is Xinjiang's complete story, from nature to civilization, and into the modern era. A perfect chain of cause and effect. By this point in our video, we can finally answer our initial question. Why is Xinjiang so special? Because it is home to one of China's most complex and extreme geographical combinations. Because the three mountains enclosing two basins form its very skeleton. Because mountains and glacial snows give birth to rivers, and these rivers create life-giving oases. Because these oases nurtured cities and civilizations. Because its crucial location, deep within Eurasia, made it a crossroads for East-West exchange for millennia. And today, modern transportation, energy infrastructure, agriculture, and urban systems are breathing new life and purpose into this ancient land. Thus, the story of Xinjiang is one told in three distinct acts. From the very beginning, this was where humans sought a place to live. Later, it became a vital corridor linking Eastern and Western civilizations. Today, Xinjiang is emerging as a key region for China, a hub for connecting with Eurasia, for modern industries, and for pioneering modernization in arid zones. Three roles converge on this single land. This is Xinjiang. But if I had to put it in the simplest terms, for a foreign viewer who has never been here, I wouldn't start by saying Xinjiang is vast. I'd say Xinjiang is a place that will change how you see China. Because what you'll find there isn't just China's deserts, nor merely its ancient civilizations. You'll see China's snow-capped mountains, its oases, and the transformation unfolding across China today. You'll realize China isn't just the glittering cities of the East. It also has this expansive West with towering peaks, sweeping grasslands, vast deserts, borders, oases, modern cities, new energy bases, modern agriculture, and a cultural history stretching back thousands of years. And Xinjiang is the most magnificent piece of this vast Chinese puzzle. So next time you look at a map of China, don't just see Xinjiang as that remote, northwestern corner. This has never been a land easy to understand. On your first visit, you see the landscapes, return, and you grasp the geography. Look deeper, and you see the history, deeper still. You witness the enduring relationship between people and this land. Alright, that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you next time.